Okay, I'm up live. All right. Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Working Together series, live from Israel with Rabbi Karmi Ingber. We're just waiting for him to join us, but let's just. Oh, Rabbi Ingber's here already. Right on. So let's just jump in and say hello. I was going to say hi to Rod, and let me just. We don't want that look. Let me just see. We want our speaker. And I want to go to full screen. Full screen. Well, Rabbi, so good to see you. I hope all's well with you. And we're going to turn the class over to you then and let you take it away and do what you do best.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much, Dan. Dan, could you take me off the picture from the on your side?
There you go, sir.
Awesome. Very good. Hi, everybody. Good to see you all. And I am still in the Holy Land. So I have some more news for you from the Holy Land. I want to talk to you first about the Israeli elections. It's big stuff. It's very, very big stuff. So, you don't know, I don't know what you're hearing. You hear people saying things that I don't know what talking about, who they're talking about. So I want to give you the real deal to understand what's happening. This is actually very, very significant, what just transpired. Hopefully it'll work out because Israel's parliamentary system is very different. There are tons of parties, and then they have to all get together and create a majority. It's not like in, let's say, America or some other places where there's more like a two-party system. This is like an endless party system. So, all right, so let me tell you what did happen and why it's so important, and to ignore certain things you might be hearing. So, people like to say what's right and what's left and what's center, and everyone's, I'm in the center and everyone else is extreme. That's the way people think. So now they're saying, oh, the right-wing bloc. Now, that's not, I don't know what that means, but I know that the bottom line here is that the majority of people in the land of Israel now have moved towards a religious view of how to deal with the country. It's very, very big. There are religious parties who got a tremendous amount of the votes. Netanyahu's party, and just so you just know this, because you're hearing stuff there, this stuff is politics. He was being investigated because someone gave him a box of cigars. I mean, so you got to take all this stuff with a grain of salt here, because it's politics, and politics create enemies who want to take him down, this and that. But he would be called centrist in the sense that, and I want to just define this in terms of forgetting right or left or center or not. There is a Torah view of the land of Israel, and you have to realize that there is a view that this land is the land for the Jewish people. And that is the reality. Now, as in everything in the Torah, it is based on God's endless kindness and compassion. And there is a place for people who are called a ger toshav, a resident here, a person who is a Noachide and accepts the sovereignty of the land of Israel, is allowed to live in the land of Israel by Jewish law. So you just know that. In the Holy Land, there are Jews and people who could live there who accept the Noachide laws and the sovereignty of the land of Israel. So, for example, there is somebody who got into the party. There is what's called the Dati Lumi. I guess they call them the religious Zionists. I guess they call them in America. And they're very nervous about one of the guys there, this Ben Gvir, and they try to make him, he's this, he's that. It's all not true. The guy says, this is the land of Israel. If someone is going to be here in this country and say, I want to take down the country, I'm a terrorist and I hate the country, I don't accept sovereignty of the country, that's a problem that has to be dealt with. And the significance of what just happened is like this, and this is so important here. The Jewish people have been exiled for 2,000 years, and many Jews have forgotten what they are. And that's not good for them. It's not good for you. It's not good for the world. So people now are like, oh, as it says in the Torah itself, the Torah says, the people will start asking, how do the nations of the world serve their gods? Because people, when someone's Jewish and they're a minority of a minority, it's not looking around, they forget who they are, and they start taking hints from the nations of the world, what people are doing that's not proper. And there are, unfortunately, many, many Jews who are in that situation. I have to explain this because I've said to you before, but it's a very sad situation in that people will look at some of the Jews who are totally assimilated, don't know Torah law, and say, how is this guy doing what he's doing? You had that question, and so do I. It's because the person doesn't know what the Torah says. So to have people in the land of Israel who really don't know what's going on, who have views that are contrary to Jewish Torah law, and to have a situation where the majority of people turned out and said, we want to establish what we are. This is the Jewish land. It is open to all those who will act properly and understand that is the Jewish land, and that the people recognize their responsibility in the world. That's a giant thing. It's giant. It's so important because now they're recognizing what they are. So this is a very great thing that happened here. I'm very excited about this. I hope the American elections go well, and that people, as we've talked about many, many times, Noachites have responsibility to make sure their country is going in the right path. And hopefully a democratic situation means if the people get out and say, we support a way of living that is proper, that is what has to happen. It's happened now in Israel. Great news. And as the verse says, the Torah comes out from Jerusalem. And I hope, God willing, in America, in election day, 2 days from now, also people will get out and say, we can't be living in a world that is counter to God's will. Just can't do it. Can't accept it. Can't be part of it. Okay, so that's the good news from Israel I want to start with. Now, I want to go on to one thing that we're in the finishing. We had the Parsha of Noach. It's moved into Lech Lecha. It moved this week into the story of Abraham. But I want to talk a little bit about Noach and what happened, because it's very relevant to what's going on in the world. And somebody who's in the group asked me about Noach a little bit. And was Noach a tzaddik? Was he a righteous person or not? You hear some different stories about it. So I want to explain a few things. First of all, Noach, it says in the verse, was a tzaddik, right? It's what it says in the verse. The verse says Noach is tzaddik, is a righteous person. Tamim he was pure in his generation. Okay. Now, one of the things that was crucial about Noach, which is an aberration we need to discuss again, is it says Noach was a tzaddik, he was a righteous person, and that's something that's called in the Jewish writings called Shomer HaBrit. He guards the covenant. Now, what covenant are we talking about here? Something was happening in the generation of the flood that was very, very bad. And it's happening today in the world. And this is why you got to vote to get this out. It's not acceptable. And I want to explain what this is a little bit. It says the animals were having relations between different species. The people having illicit relations between animals and inappropriate things. They were not controlling their physical desires and having inappropriate illicit relations. Now, I want you to think about something a second. What are the two greatest physical pleasures in the world? If you think about it, you'll be it's very fascinating. The two greatest physical pleasures in the world are physical intimacy, right? Man and a woman, and eating. Eating, people like to eat. Those are great physical pleasures. We all like to eat, and intimacy. If you think about it more deeply, you realize that both of those tremendous pleasures are both built on the sustaining of life. Right? When I eat, I can live. When I have intimate relations, I can procreate. I can create life. That's very significant. Those are the greatest pleasures, and therefore those are the places that are most easy to pervert. God gave us a place where this ability to create life through eating and through procreating, he made it pleasurable. He didn't have to make it pleasurable. Think about it. What happens if God made it that your food tastes like sawdust? You'd still have to eat, right? What happens if he made it that physical relations were unpleasurable? You still have to procreate, keep going on. And yet, he put the greatest pleasure there. Now, that means that this is a place that is powerful. And therefore, it's no accident that that is the place where people go and corrupt it more than anything else. We eat gluttonously, we eat out of control. And the generation of the flood was taking the areas of their physical pleasures of illicit relations of where they could have built and created and misused it completely. Noach is called a tzaddik, a righteous person, that he guards what he is. Let me explain this more deeply. It's fascinating. The deepest part about the person, if you think, what is the most godlike thing that a person could do? It's actually to help create another person. Isn't that crazy? God gave us an ability, and every tree, if you look in the story of Genesis and Bereshit, every tree, it doesn't describe much about the tree. It says God made it liminehem, to their species, which means that every tree had in it the ability to produce another tree. Every species had the ability to go and to produce another type. That is built into the system to create life, to expand that. And that's why, by the way, there's a law that you're not allowed to crossbreed things. You can't take, a donkey and a horse and breed them. The mule is a sterile animal because you're not supposed to take them, because what happens is, if you do that, if you take, let's say, an apple and a plum, and you crossbreed them, you don't have an apple and a plum. You have neither. So God created every single creation with a purpose, a unique purpose in the world. And Noach maintained what he was. The people of his generation were out of control in this area. And they were doing all the things that they were literally illicit relations all over. That was their main thing. It was mentioned last time. And I bring this up again because we're talking at a time where the world, if you look at the world, there is a loss of the concept that we are something and we have something we have to do. People are all over the place. And therefore, in illicit relations, they're all over the place also. And that is the story of the flood that happened. And that's happening right now. So we have to do, as I said, it's election time. We have to also get out and stand up for people being like Noach. Noach, to say that the human species has what they have. Animals have what they have. And everyone has to be true to their root, to their essence. Okay. Now, so is Noah greater than Abraham or not? That's an old question, people say, right? The text says that Noah is righteous in his generation. So some people say, well, in his generation he was righteous, but in other generations, not so much. And some people say, well, no, it depends. He was great. If he had been in Abraham's generation, it'd be even better. Now, I want to just explain this a little bit here. Some people think that Noah was not so amazing. And it's not true. Noah was a great tzaddik. He wasn't as great as Abraham. But I got to tell you something. Have you ever fought the entire world by yourself? No. Nobody here has stood up and said, this is the right thing to do, and I don't care what you say, I'm doing it. We're all social animals. You walk into a social situation, you know, the old thing, if somebody walks outside and 10 people are looking up to the sky, and you walk out there, you're going to look at the sky too, because we are influenced by our society. And therefore, to stand up like Noah did and like Abraham did is very unique. Now, but Noah was not in the same level as Abraham for various reasons I want to discuss. And this, I'm sure you've heard this. We talked about it before. Let's just bring it home because it's all relevant to what's happening now and what we need to do. So it says that the verse in the prophets calls the flood the waters of Noah. Wow. That's a pretty dubious honor to have a flood named after you, right? It's like, wow, that's great. Wow, the flood's got my name. That's not a very good thing. So why is the flood named after Noah? So the sages tell us because he didn't pray for his generation. What does that mean? It means he didn't care? He obviously cared. He rebuked them. He said to them for a long time, listen, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. But there's a point where Noah said, okay, if God judged them that they're not worthy, that's what they got to get. It wasn't like I didn't see that movie, and I hope you didn't see it either. There was a movie a couple years ago about Noah. I didn't see it, and I hope you didn't see it because people told me it was like they painted him like this crazed guy who was all angry. That's not what it was. He tried his hardest for years to get his people to do the right thing, but he said when God judges them that they're not worthy, there weren't 10 righteous people on to do. Abraham had a different view of the world. Abraham is called Av, a father. Abraham means Av Hamon Goyim. He's called the father of many nations. Abraham looked at himself as the father of the people. And he said, I know they don't deserve it, but I got to find something. As we talked about once, when he prayed for Sodom, what a crazy thing. He's praying for the evil people. How do you explain that? And I told you this once before. I want you to remember this. It's very, very crucial. He was not praying for bad people to stay bad. That wasn't his prayer. His prayer was that if there's goodness in this place, then that could shine out to everybody else. And that's really the way you're supposed to pray for people. You're not supposed to say, oh, there's a bad guy. Yeah, good. Let him keep going. No. The prayer is that if he's got an ounce of good in him, then let that be brought out and let him change. Abraham prayed for Sodom because he said, if there are a number of righteous people, that means there's a seed of goodness in this place. And that's what he prayed for. And that's why the sages tell us, really, even though it looks like it wasn't accepted, it was accepted because God did take I don't want to get into the mystical things, how he did it, but took the souls of those people and brought out whatever goodness eventually brought out from them. So Abraham has got a different view of Noah. Noah does what's right. He's a righteous person. He guards what's right. And there's a rule, there's a law. You cross the line. Abraham is the father of the people. He's the Avraham, Av among them. He's the father of the nations. He saw himself as the parent. If the parent, I want to tell you an amazing thing. It's like the story of in Noah when he sends out the bird, right? You guys saw that. It's a very strange story. He sends out the raven, and the raven doesn't want to go. Then he sends out the dove, and the dove does go. Why did the raven want to go? So the sages tell us that the raven is a cruel animal. It's the only animal that's cruel to its young. When the babies are born, they're not that dark as the raven. And therefore, the parents don't believe it's their child. They don't want to feed it. And the Talmud says that there's mosquitoes, these bugs come out from the feces, and the babies eat that. So the raven has a certain quality that it's hard for the raven to, whatever this means, to find the good in something. And Noah sent out the raven to find, was there something good to build the land off of? And that's what the raven didn't want to go. They didn't want to see that. The dove is always compared to loyalty. A dove is true to its mate. Okay, there's certain types of dove. It's called the tur in Hebrew. The tur, which it'll only have one mate for life. A fascinating law in the Torah and offerings, where if you're going to bring this two types of doves, you only have to bring one. You should not bring the one that only has one mate for life, because then you'll take it away from its mate. So the certain types of dove only have one mate for life. It's loyal. I want to ask you guys, what does it mean to be loyal to somebody? You're married to somebody. How do you stay loyal? If you marry someone, you say, well, this person is not who I thought it was, so how are you loyal? If you say this person was that, but there's something totally different, what are we loyal to? What is loyalty? What does it mean? So let me explain to you. There's an amazing word in Hebrew called compassion, rachamim. Rachamim. People misunderstand what compassion is. Compassion means the following. When a mother is compassionate to the child, she goes to the parent-teacher meeting. The teacher says, your kid is a disaster. The mother says, what are you talking about? You don't see this about my kid and that about my kid? Now, the mother may be delusional. Sometimes it happens. But what also happens is she sees the good in the child that the other people don't see. That is compassion. Kindness means I give you kindness no matter what. Judgment, I judge no matter what. Compassion means that I see the goodness in the person, even though you can't see it, and that's what I always notice. And that's why the Hebrew word rachem, compassion, is the same root as the word, is the same word as a womb. It's called a rechem in Hebrew. Because you don't see, there's nothing there. Well, there is a baby there. There's a child, there's a person there. The word rachem, compassion, if you flip the letters around, you know what word it spells in Hebrew? It spells the word machar, which means tomorrow. Why tomorrow? Because the mother sees the tomorrow. That's what she sees. She knows the kid's not perfect, but she sees the goodness in him. That's loyalty. Loyalty means, let's say a couple's in a relationship and they're going through a hard time, but you see in the person what it is that you loved in the beginning, even if it's being hidden, even if it's confused, even if they're going through a hard time, you see that goodness and you want to pull that out. You're loyal to what you saw in the beginning. There's the seed of what the person is. That was the dove. So Noah then sent the dove because the dove was that other level that it was looking for the point to build a new world on, to see what was good. That is, as I said before, the Noah situation. Noah as a human being, very righteous, but he missed that next level of Avraham. Avraham's level is, I am their parent, I'm going to see the good in them, and I'm going to pull the good out, and that's what he did. Avraham is a very unique person in the sense that he was the first person to come to God with his mind. Avraham, by the way, in the Jewish writings is called the great philosopher. Why? Because he said, this doesn't make sense. this doesn't make sense. People worshiping idols, this doesn't make sense. I need to think about what's happening. And he thought about it and he thought about it until he realized there has to be a God. And when he thought about it, it says that God appeared to him and says, yes, you understand. You understand. And now that you've done all your human effort to make this a reality, now God reveals himself to him. Then Avram spent his life going and feeling that responsibility to share this with other people like a parent. And that's why it says Noah was very righteous, but he couldn't go in the front. He kind of was like with God, and God had to. Abraham ran out in front and said, okay, this is my job in life, is to bring God into the world. And that's what I want to give us the idea today, what we're doing. Every single one of us has to go and lead the way to make a difference in the world. You can't sit on the sidelines. This is really, there's a battle going on between positive and negative. It's a real battle. And there are philosophies that are being spewed that are totally bad, totally wrong, totally against the Torah. And we have to know that. We have to say, okay, I have to try to speak to people like Noah did. I have to pray for them like Abraham did. But I have to go and stand up and say, this is what's important and this is what's meaningful in life. And now it's happened in Israel. It's a good first step. It should happen in the entire world, that people should stand up and say, there is a creator in the world. As I said to you many times, so much of this negative woke reality is based on the idea that we are God. There's not a creator, a omnipotent, beneficent creator who created the world and is moving it towards a purpose. And there are boundaries, and I stay within those boundaries. In Noah's generation, they broke all the boundaries. Today, break all the boundaries. And therefore, we should have a blessing to be able to stand up, be counted, and take back our countries in the world to be like Noah and like Abraham, who are going to go and to help rebuild the world, find that goodness, and try to find it in people. I mean, it's hard. People sometimes are at a level today that I've never seen. I've never seen the level of inability to speak to people today as 10 years ago and 15 years ago. It's unfortunately shocking. People has this big thing with, I was thinking about it yesterday, they had this big thing about, Elon Musk buying Twitter, restoring free speech. Okay, I think it's noble, but there's something else that I want to add to you about this. And this is important. Whatever your political positions are, it's important to hear, even if someone is wrong and you disagree with them, it's important if you could find something that you could see good in them. Maybe they could hear you better. So I was thinking about it, and they had this idea of like, Elon Musk says, and he's right, that they're censoring people from their opinions. It's clear. I mean, I don't get too much of politics, but a lot of things that were that very recently were like conspiracy theories, you couldn't say them, are now known facts. So there's censorship of doctors or this and that. So the other side will say, well, let's open up free speech. And I hear that. But I want to put one caveat. And in Jewish law, this is crucial. In Jewish law, even if something's true and negative, you're not supposed to say it. Okay, I'm not saying that in Noachides have to do this to this level, but the concept you need to do. In other words, let's say I know a person he did something, I don't like him. It's not a good thing to go and to announce it. So I haven't answered anything on a social media platform in years. I did once because one of my students said I should, and then people started saying their opinions, and they were talking. It was fascinating because it's like people start like opening a mouth to me like they would never do as the rabbi. Now all of a sudden they're on Facebook, so I could say, well, I want to now, I'll get up my anger out. So I was thinking yesterday, I think I got to call up Elon Musk and tell him, I have a great rule for you. Freedom of speech, I agree. But you know what? I think the first thing you should do when you respond is say something good to the person who made their comment, even if you disagree with them. Even if you think it's wrong, how about this? I appreciate your passion for this thing. I think it's totally wrong, but you're very passionate about it. The person's going to hear you a million times more. And unless you're talking about a really evil person, which unfortunately there are, when you can't really, there are some, unfortunately, but most people in your orbit are not like that. But really evil people are, okay, it's different. But generally speaking, the people in your orbit, you have friends, you can have relatives that have different opinions politically now, and you can't even talk to them. So I find something good, even if I disagree. If I start out with, a person says something that I think is absurd, and they say it with real vigor. So I wrote my first response to somebody. I said, "That's a very thoughtful thing that you said, and here's what my opinion about it." So I've already complimented it. It's not a game. It means finding the positive, even if you disagree, because that's the way the world used to be. I had an opinion, you have a different opinion. Now, a different opinion, you're terrible, you're racist, you're this, you're that. That's the way the world is today. But if a person could actually, have the freedom to say their opinion, but say it in a positive way. You're not gonna get, even your free opinions when they're combative and they're negative, you're not gonna change anybody. I've never seen. It's like at my Shabbat table, people after speaking words of Torah always feel good. If they're speaking politics, nobody feels good. It just doesn't work. It doesn't happen that way. So when you want to talk to someone, do the Abraham, do what Abraham did. But Noah tried to, and he wasn't able to pull that off fully and to defend the people like Abraham was. Find something that you could acknowledge, it should be something, and then say your opinion, and then maybe they'll hear you better and you'll understand, even if they're misguided, that there's something there that maybe you could work with. So that should go now from Israel to the rest of the world. That's my thought, and let's open it up.
Rabbi, I got a question from Laura down in Tampa Bay there. Her question for the rabbi is, there's a group of Hasids who don't believe or support the state of Israel. She asks, why is it that they feel that way?
Good. Very good question, Laura. So the reason why they feel that way is because there is a teaching in the Talmud that refers to different things that God insisted upon. They're called vows in the Talmud that God insisted upon for the Jewish people and for the nations of the world. And there were three things there. One was that the Jews would not come back to Israel by force, that God would bring them back once they were sent to exile. They wouldn't go by in mass and with force. And the second one was they wouldn't go and, like in that process, rebel against all the nations in that way. So they shouldn't go and fight to reacquire Israel. Rather, they should go and wait for God to give this to them. And there was then a vow that God, so to speak, made the nations take, that they wouldn't subjugate and persecute the Jews overly. Wouldn't overly persecute them. Now, the vast majority of the Jewish world says the following as far as that. They say, as far as going up in force to the land of Israel, that actually didn't happen historically. What happened historically? Historically, you had the most bizarre thing where the UN voted to give the land of Israel to Israel. Russia and America, the same. Russia thought they were going to be communists. America thought they would be capitalists. Whatever the reason, they all voted for them. But they were voted by the nations of the world to. So the majority of the Jewish people say that they didn't go up in force. because it was given to the Jewish people in the partition. Then every war has been a defensive war. Okay, that's statement one. Statement two is that most people say that once the nations of the world committed the Holocaust, they broke the deal and the deal's off. The Jews can go back to Israel any way they can. That's the way most Jewish people understand this law. The Satmar people understand the no. They understand the deal was that you can go to live in Israel, but you should not go up in force, in mass, to create a state, wait for God to go and to bring you back in terms of the bringing the temple, and individuals can go up there, but the Satmar Hasidim understand that the deal is the deal, and God did not want the Jewish people to forcibly go as the nation to return to Israel until He brought us back from the exile. And that's the way the Satmar Hasidim understand it. And the vast majority of Jews do not understand it that way. But there is a small group of Hasidim who say, and they live here. It is the Satmar live here. It's not they don't live in Israel, not all of them, but there are Satmar Hasidim that are here. But what they do is that they're not involved in the government. They don't vote. They have no connection with the government. They're there as individuals coming to the land because they say we're individually coming to the land of Israel. And when God brings the third temple and brings us back, in a way that it's not us doing it by force, that's when we should set up a state. That's their opinion. Good. Very important question, because people, it's very confusing, right, Lara? It's like, what is going on? And unfortunately, I don't know where you've seen, because you get problems with media and this and that. So sometimes the most of the people who hold that opinion, I disagree with them very strongly, but they're not, it's a respectable position. It's not a crazy thing. There are obviously hotheads in every group who sometimes take things, they get into, they like to, have it be extreme. So you get some guy in the video of a group that's a little bit, especially the kids, like the kids like action. Yeah, let's go around, and now we're saying our opinion, and so but that's not the real deal. The real deal is that that's their opinion. Disagree with it very strongly, as the vast majority of the Jewish world does, but they are here and they are strongly there's no difference in terms, they pray towards Israel 3 times a day. They love the state of Israel. They cry over Israel and the temple, but they maintain that the establishment of the state should not be done forcibly, and they maintain that it would be called forcibly because we have people that don't want it, and that they should be here as individuals until God reveals Himself and builds the third temple. That's what they maintain.
She has a second question, Rabbi. How Hashem described Noah before and after the flood? Can you explain, please?
What do you mean? Which part? Before and after the flood? When he says Ish Adamah, when he calls him the man of the earth, which part do you mean, Lara, specifically?
I got to wait for her response.
Okay. Before and after the flood, Noah made a mistake a little bit afterwards, and it says it calls him a person of the earth when he planted the vine. He shouldn't have planted the grape first. That was a little bit mistake. Various reasons why he thought to do that, but when Noah came out of the ark, so God commanded him to pruvu, to be fruitful, multiply, and to start to rebuild the world. Yes, I'm not sure which part Lara used. Tzaddik, I see. Yeah. So man of the soil is, as I thought you referred to. So man of the soil is somewhat derogatory, and the reason why it's derogatory is because it says that Noah, when he planted, the first thing he planted was a vineyard, and then the story gets drunk, and that wasn't the appropriate first thing for him to plant. So he was still tzaddik, he was still righteous afterwards, but he got into the more we'll call it earthy, like, process of the wine, to drink the wine, to want the wine, and that was considered to be a mistake on his part. He should have planted something else. The sages tell us something that would be more, like, more basic and fundamental for everyone. Wine is not something that you sustain yourself on. If your main meal is wine, you're in trouble. So wine it says in the verse, it gladdens the heart. It says lechem, that bread and grain satiates, and wine, it says ismach, it gladdens the heart. So it's like another level. So the first thing would have been, to think about, okay, this is what the world needs, and for him to get into the process of planting the vineyard was considered a negative thing. So the verse calls him a person of the earth, because it was considered to be a earthy thing for him to do, not to consider what the society needs and to think about that, but rather to be drawn towards wanting to drink the wine. Okay.
I just had a little comment and also a question, Rabbi. So it's kind of a silly thing, but what you were saying about the like how we're very, like we're social beings and people have a tendency to kind of, like, in a social situation, kind of, potentially copy each other or something like that. I saw a video the other day that a guy made. He was at a very busy airport and he did not work there. So he was making the video to prove a point. He was dressed in all black and he had a mask on and he had a lint roller. And he was standing in front of the door and he was, like, motioning to people to put their arms out. And he was doing the lint roller on their arms. And every single person that walked by, they put their arms out and he did the lint roller on their
arms. It's unbelievable. That's unbelievable,
yeah. And then, Rabbi, listen, I have another question. I don't know how connected it is to the content.
Okay, it's a free questions.
I also don't know. Else. Well, but on top of that, I also don't know how appropriate it is. I'll just ask it, but if it's not something that's appropriate to answer or talk about, then it's fine. But I just, I've seen some stuff recently on the news about all this stuff, with, Kanye West and this NBA player who's, I don't know his name, Irving or something like that. And then I saw an article today on Aish that was talking about, the title of the article was something like Black Hebrew Israelites and the real Jews. And apparently the whole thing that's being discussed right now with this NBA player is, like, he's saying that, like, people who claim to be Jews, especially European Jews, they're actually historically converts from pagan religions, and the real Jews are actually African Americans. Which, again, if this is just such an obvious discussion, then we don't have to address it. I just was really curious about it because I personally had never heard of the term or it's like a movement, I guess, like the Black Hebrew Israelites. It's like a whole movement, apparently. I'd never heard of it. But, like, is there, like, any particular comment that you have on that or anything you want to say about that? I'm just, like, blown away, because I know he posted that video, but what surprised me is how many people, because I'm not a big social media person, but I did see that Kanye West, like, posted this guy's picture, this NBA player, on his own Instagram page. And he had millions of likes. Like, everyone's like, yeah, he's saying the truth. And, like, millions of people were, like, liking that. And I was wow, that's kind of shocking. But maybe it's not shocking. I'm not really sure.
Well, I'll tell you a few things, and especially, like, as I mentioned to you before, a little bit about some of the discussions that unfortunately had happened with censorship in the government. You can't say this, you can't say that. I can tell you one thing we know for sure, that the fact that the majority of people say something has absolutely no bearing on it being true. I mean, majority of the world said that the earth was flat. Majority of people said that the sun revolves around the earth. I mean, the amount of people doesn't mean much. The fact that many people say things, you have to look at what's the truth. So the first thing to obviously look is who has the Torah. I mean, I'm not to go into and to look at who's saying what. I mean, we have a direct line. We have the Torah. We can go back from our generations all the way back to, we can count back to Moses. Okay, if you look in the book called Ethics of Our Fathers, it has the transmission, Moshe to Joshua, Joshua to the elders. It has the whole transmission, and where it ends in the Second Temple time. From there, people can go still straight down. We have a Cohen in Atlanta who can trace back to the temple. He can trace himself back to Aaron. We know generations. So we're not saying theories here. We can trace it back, our ancestors. We trace back the teachings of the Torah. So for a guy to come along and say, I'm the real Jew, okay, you can say what you want to say. You can call it what you want to call it. But we're keeping the Torah. Whatever you're keeping. But you want to call that, you want to name that, you want to name that. I don't know. So I don't know exactly what the Black Hebrews, what their belief and how they connected. There is a group that, and this is not the Black Hebrews, this is really more the Rastafarians, who they connected their lineage somehow to the Queen of Sheba. They went to Ethiopia and she had relations with King Solomon. That can be true. King Solomon did marry, whatever you want to call it, the Queen of Sheba to a certain degree, and there was descendants that had a connection to Solomon. That doesn't make them Jewish, but it's they have, let's say, it's a theory. I don't know that anyone could prove it, but there's some basis to the idea that they can have potentially a connection through the Queen of Sheba to King Solomon, but that won't make them Jewish, because the Jewish lineage goes by the mother, not by the father. So that would make them Jewish anyway. The Black Hebrews, I don't really know where they get their claim from, but as I said, you can call what you want European, we can go back literally father to father to father, the mother, we can go back all the way, both in terms of the actual genealogy as well as the giving of the Torah, which really is the test. If it's like, there's something that's a fascinating thing with all Jews, even Jews that are assimilated today. They all go and they do certain things that they've always done 4,000 years. Every Jew basically goes and does a Passover Seder. Even if they're not so connected, they know it came out of Egypt. This is what you do every year. And I've seen, and even in my house of Passover Seder, people come who are Jews who are not, that connected, but they know this is what you do. So people come along and say, I have a new idea, I have a new way of doing things. They can say what they want to say, but they don't have the goods. Now, the other thing which is happening right now with Kanye West is that there's a lot of anti-Semitism, and that's not a good sign, people. Not a good sign, because what it means is that the anger in the world is very great. People are focus it on the ones who have to bring God's message, and that's not a good thing. I'm not defending them in any way. It's, as I said, it's unfortunate they see Jews that are not necessarily practicing Judaism, and I don't know exactly what started Kanye West on this whole kick, but I'm sure it didn't help that he saw Jews who were espousing things that itself are counter to Torah. I'm sure that didn't help. So I'm not defending it, obviously, because it's based in hatred, but they're also confused about what the Jewish message is. So that's why we're doing this, to bring you the real Jewish message, which is the same for me or any other authentic rabbi in the world. Yes, right.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rabbi. There's also, I'm always looking for a different. I'm always interested in picking up the prism and changing a little bit to see what other colors comes out of it. And when you talk about society today, as was mentioned, the Black Israelites, the Hebrew roots movement in Christianity. I mean, we can go down through a whole litany of individuals that are actually being co-opted by false ideas that have been encapsulated in some element of truth. And it seems a bit discouraging and convoluted. And it brings a tremendous amount of concern to the Jewish world as well as the pious people of the nations. But on the other side of that, that should also demonstrate that underneath all of the hyperbole that is going on, there are hundreds of thousands of people that are seeking their connection to the God of Israel in Torah. And because they don't know how to do it, and because they don't know the approach, they just take the first thing that's available to them.
Right.
And
Right.
in some aspects, like when I watched Kanye, I was like, oh, please don't say that. Please don't say that, right? But I realized what he was verbalizing was wrong, was disinformation. I don't believe that he was doing it intentionally. I think it's out of a true desire to be pure and to want to connect to God, but he's been fed all of this information, and that's what he's going to spew out. God willing,
Yeah.
the righteous people of the nations are going to, even in those environments, are going to one day go, yeah, something's not right about this. I need to seek a higher truth. And we couldn't be in a better time in society in which we have a free flow of information, somewhat, a free flow of information. And at the same time, we also have the ability to distinguish more than ever between what is good and what is evil, what is right and what is wrong. I mean, they lie in a very definite demarcation. And yeah, it's laid out in front of us, and we're not talking about just here. Look at what's going on in Brazil. Hundreds of thousands of people are protesting the election. This guy that was got into office, who was a criminal basically, and was in office, and everybody was rejecting him, and he won. And they're like, no possible way that this guy could win again. And they are in. Hopefully, righteousness exalts a nation, as the scripture says.
Yeah,
Right?
I think you're saying very good, and that's kind of what I was saying also, which is, the unfortunate thing about like saying, what are the Jews teaching? And when you have an assimilated Jew, and that's what Kanye West looks at, so he's like, that's the message. I'm not saying that that's his only problem, but I'm saying that that's so the benefit of the doubt side of where a person says, well, I want to know the truth, and like, are these guys giving it or not? But he's the waters. It's very hard, guys, because you gotta be really careful here, because there are some very bad players,
right?
And you have to be careful, because there's a difference between a really bad player with a bad intent. There's a difference between a jealous person. There's a jealousy. I think we've talked about that a few weeks ago, about the root of anti-Semitism. I believe we talked about that. The root of anti-Semitism, I told you, was that the story is that when Jacob has 12 sons, he showed favoritism to Joseph that created jealousy among the other sons. And so there is, and this is very important for Noachides to be part of the experience, to be connected to the Jewish people, as opposed to like a Molech we talked about. It was like, no, I'm not going to do that because, I'm jealous of that, and therefore I'm going to, pervert every statement. So there are people who are bad players, there are people who have a jealousy issue, there are people who are confused, and you have to distinguish what it is, and you got to be careful because there's a lot of not good players, and the social media thing, which we hope is going to work out for good for us, that we'll be able to get truth out in the world, also spews out a lot of negativity also, because that's, as I said to you before, which is that craziest thing. I wish I can get Elon Musk and tell him this, because it really is the answer. The answer is that it's not enough to let people talk. That's a great thing. It's an important thing. It's the First Amendment in America for a reason. But if you want a successful society, it's not enough, because it's really easy when you're facing somebody. If you're not a really bad guy, it's really hard to attack them to their face if you're not a bad person. But you can be a very nice person, but you're sitting on your computer, you might even have a fake name up there, and you could say all that you want, just get it out. Then people do it, and it feeds onto itself. So it's a very negative thing. So you got to be careful with that also, with how this is going to all play out.
Right. I think that's why this podcast is so important for the nations, to know that there is actually a pure source, that you can attach yourself to the Torah, attach yourself to the Jewish people, and also have your expression as a human in the nations, to grab a hold of purity and holiness without all of the conflict, et cetera, et cetera. So
Right. And we're hoping, it's like I said to you many times, it really, and I think I shared this with you a few weeks ago, it hasn't happened so much in the Jewish world, even though it is one of the commandments, not one of the but it's a commandment from the prophets, is to be light unto nations. It has not been done because the violence and persecution that has happened. So we're hoping that the world is getting, even though on the outside it may be an angrier place than it was, but we're also hoping that there are people like yourselves who are hearing, who are listening, who are open, and that goodness could affect everybody.
Right.
And there could be a light in the entire world, and then it's going to be an obligation on every rabbi to be able to share Torah with the entire world.
One of the things that I have sort of mentioned over the years to our Noahide community is, when you look at the Israelites when they came out of Egypt, they were surrounded by the nations, the Goyim that came out with them. And they were on the outside of the camp. They were the perimeter. And in some aspects, and I can bring up a couple of Talmudic or Midrashic sources that talk about them almost being like the skin of the people of Israel. And so at some level, I see in the time before Mashiach, the righteous people, the nations, become a protective element for the Jewish people, and also an encouragement for them to become light while standing beside them in some level of, a protectiveness or a cover for them. And I think that is an amazing opportunity for us and our mission as people of the nations.
I hear.
Yeah, like a breakwater. Good, Dan. Anybody else have any questions you would like to bring up or ask or comments? Now would be the time. We're about a minute away from the top of the hour. Great class, great lecture.
Thank you. Everyone, I want to say, I mentioned to you before, if you live in Florida, any place in Florida, please email me, Rabbi Ingber at Gmail, because we are looking to actually come to Florida soon and do some classes and some live things to meet with you guys there. So if anyone is living in Florida, we hope to come to your city, wherever you are, soon. But during the cold months of December and January, we will be in Florida. Might as well be in a warmer place when it's so cold.
So,
But
Rabbi, quick question. If you plan to come to Texas, have you thought about maybe, or Houston, have you thought about getting a hold of Rabbi Wolbe to
yeah,
see if we can host a big event there?
yeah, I for sure will. Yeah,
Okay.
Houston is very close to the Houston Jewish community. A lot of my
Yeah,
students,
because
rabbis
I'm
from
going to tell
Houston,
you
love Houston.
the information that needs to be given that you will give is just as important for the Jewish community as for the
Yeah,
nations. Yeah,
I will contact my Wolby for the Texas one. We will do Texas also, God willing.
Roger that.
Love Texas, and we will definitely get that happening. Kelly had a question.
Hi.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi. I am new, like I just recently have become a Noahide, and I've just come out of the Messianic movement. It was online for about 2 years. I was in that. I was a Christian for about 45 years, devout.
Can you, Kelly, can you tell what was that again? I didn't get that. The what
Sorry.
movement?
Messianic.
Yeah, I've recently come out of that,
Right.
and recently become a Noahide, and I'm just want to I'm feeling, I don't know, kind of empty, because like I've given up Christianity, I've given up idolatry, thank God for that, and I've given up the Messianic movement, and I would like to become Jewish, but it's not possible. So I'm a Noahide, and I'm wondering, what's my purpose? Like, what have I got? Like, I just, this is the thing I'm struggling with.
Where do you live, Kelly? Can I ask you?
Yes, I'm in British Columbia, Canada, in a place called West Bank, Canada, not West Bank, Israel. I'm about I'm about 40 minutes from Dan, so not too far.
So a couple things. I'll tell you why I'm asking that question. So first of all, a Noahide, there is a lot that you can do. You have to build a relationship with God and with people. And there's a map to do it. That's why we're having these classes to teach people how to do it. And once you start to feel that, yes, if I keep the 7 Noahide laws and all its corollaries, there's many corollaries and extended commandments, then I am doing my purpose. As I quoted many, many times, the Talmud says a Noahide that keeps the 7 laws of Noah is like the high priest of Israel. They're doing their mission. So you can do the 7 laws of Noah and feel with its corollaries and feel that you are doing your purpose and you're beloved to God and you're living a purposeful life. Now, the problem that you probably have here is that we need social interaction. We need people in a group. And that's why, we're doing this online. But that's why I was asking where you're living, because it's important. And Tim once brought this up also, I think, that we need to be able to have people live to connect.
Yes.
Because as a rabbi of a synagogue, so the whole thing was the people connecting, literally being together and feeling that connection to all be doing the same thing, serving God in the proper way. So we have to figure out a way to, first we're doing this online to connect you, and we'll answer your questions and we'll try to give guidance on how to do things. And then God willing, hopefully we'll try to figure out a way that we can have some live interaction for some people here. Hopefully Dan's in British Columbia, I believe.
Yeah, nice.
Any advice from me, Kelly, would be learn to detach the emotion and think more intellectual. You'll find a knowledge of God really fosters a love of Hashem for sure. And coming out of Christianity, it's always an emotional attachment, and that emotion is a strong thing, but it needs to be from the top down, and you need to be able to understand more about Hashem and develop love of Hashem in that regard, and that will override the emotional overtaking for sure.
Yeah.
You had your hand up, Rod?
Yes, Kelly, I would like to add something. First of all, thank you for joining us for the first time. It's really an honor to have you here. Everything they said is absolutely right. COVID changed everything. It was by the direction of Hakadosh Baruch Hu. God has allowed this to take place so that virtually people from the nations can connect to each other and have community and have discussions. Uh, I don't know about other Noahide communities that are online, but I know Netiv, the number of classes that we have through the week and the number of opportunities you have to interact and to ask questions is profound to your development and growth and relationship.
Yeah.
Our community also does things with the women. They have special events online for women, et cetera, et cetera. So the point would be is, as Rabbi Ingber said, dive into your study of Torah, dive into your study of things that elevate you spiritually to the highest level, connect with people virtually, and when you get an opportunity to meet other people in your area or like at a national meeting or something, make the effort to do it because that is the key. I mean, we have people that will drive 2 hours just to have a dinner in
Wow.
our
Yeah.
community. So I would just encourage you, you only get what you put into it. So I want to encourage you, just put in 100% and you watch the rewards. Hashem will guide you to the right people. But the biggest thing, as the Jewish people are the light of the nations, we are like the moon that reflect the light of the nations. And it's important for us when we are in our local grocery store, we're at a supermarket, that we are reflecting the light of Torah and Hashem to these people. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to be preaching to them, but you're going to be showing compassion, loving kindness, wisdom. And that is a powerful tool. You have a mission, and that's your mission, to realize that Hashem has made me this person at this time to be a reflection of the light of Hashem from the Jewish people and the Torah.
Wow.
Well,
And
Thank
well
so
said.
it's going to
Yeah.
set you on a whole nother path. So, Kelly, if you are interested in joining our classes, send me an email, or better than that, just go to do you know our website URL?
Um, I'm not sure. I've been
Nativ,
watching lots.
it's nativonline.org. Okay, I'm going to type it in here. Go to it and just say, hey, add me to your weekly discussions or weekly classes. I mean, we have great rabbis on Thursday and Wednesday and Thursday. We have a great Torah dialogue and discussion that you can
Okay.
get involved in and ask questions.
Yeah.
Sunday night after Rabbi Ingber, we do Q&A, and we also do, on the nights that he's not available, I'm starting to teach the Psalms. So this is a great place to be involved.
Well,
Yeah,
wonderful.
definitely a good place to start.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
going to put it up
and
here now. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, we have our Noahide Society Canada conference in 2 weeks today. So, Rabbi Ingber, if you're planning to do a class in 2 weeks, I will not be available. I have to pick up Rabbi Skobach at the airport at this time 2 weeks from today. But Kelly, I do have a sweater for you here. I have one of these Noahide Society Canada sweaters for the conference since you're going to work, and one for Angelica also. And so, we're going to have a good time. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah.
That's at the Penticton Trade and Convention
Dan,
Center.
I'm so happy you're doing this. It's great. I was speaking to Rabbi Shirky and Rabbi Goldberg last week, and we're very excited about that. And as I said, we're going to try to do stuff live also for you people because it's important. The online thing is great. We're going to try to make efforts to have live contact also now. Thank God, we'll call the pandemic over officially, and we'll hopefully be able to connect also physically.
Yeah, well,
It's
thank you.
exciting.
I appreciate it. I've been listening pretty much every day to messages because it's like I'm like a sponge. I can't get enough. I'm just soaking it,
Awesome.
and it's wonderful. And I am really looking forward to the conference. That's going to be an awesome thing because
That's
it'll
going to
be
be great.
yeah.
I'm
And
I'm hoping still to attend myself, Dan. So God willing, there's been some things that might interfere, but I'm still wanting to come very badly, and hopefully I'll.
Great.
And if you're going to what do you call it, broadcast it on social media, let me know. I know Ronald's talking about one coming up in Australia. When is this going to be in Australia?
5th of February to the 9th.
So exciting.
I have
The 5th of February.
I have a meeting our time, 1:30. Chrissy and I are meeting Zoom with Rabbi Cowan at 1:30 today. We had a meeting last week. The venue, the main outlay is set in concrete. The flyer Chrissy put up on the Australian and New Zealand Noahide site the other day. Well, yeah, during the week, yeah, because Rabbi had finished the flyer. We sorted out everything, and the flyer was changed a little bit with dates or things that needed to be changed on it. And we're having another meeting. I'm not sure what we're discussing today, but I suppose things will be up for discussion. Is who's speaking, who he has in mind to talk. There will be doing some international Zooms with people, but nothing's been listed as who yet.
Well, that's good. I mean, look,
we're not expecting many. We're, like even if we got 10, because we're so far apart, most people
big country. Yeah.
Just get it started, Ronald. Just
right.
Get it started.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Do not.
Yeah, that's what the rabbi said. We said if we get 10, which we know we're going to get at least 10, and we're only looking at possibly 30 at the most, but as a first one, we would be happy with a smaller group closer together, more intimate, and also we'll be able to work out and judge how it goes for. We intend to on-go this next year again, or the following year. In 2024, we're hoping to go ahead again with it and grow it and sort of tidy it up if there's things that need to be fine-tuned.
We can't despise our small beginnings. It's happening right now.
Right.
That's right.
It's happening. I mean, literally all over the world. There is a huge movement in the Philippines. I don't know if I've told you that and know it.
We're actually, sorry to interrupt, Chrissy's family is sponsoring someone from the Philippines. She says he's actually dynamite, this guy. So I don't know his name offhand, but her family are wanting to sponsor him to be able to come to the conference.
Yes.
Do you know Rabbi Shimon Cowan? Karmi?
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
Yeah, McCowan from he's English, Prince,
Melbourne,
right?
Yeah. 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 Oh, that's right. Yeah, I've connected you to, didn't I, the other month? I forgot about that, actually, because I haven't mentioned that either.
Rabbi,
guys, I'm going to check out.
Rabbi, before you go,
Yes.
Before you go, and I know you're doing this, but I just want everyone else to hear it. When you're in meetings with Sharkey and other people, and other rabbis that you may know that not are really associated, we really need you to be our ambassador. I mean, this is what we're looking for, as an ambassador for the Noahide people, especially from the West, and helping us to connect to Noahide communities in the East, et cetera, so that we can begin to acknowledge them. I realize that there are some that are sort of isolated because they are maybe in some particular view or philosophical idea that they don't want to associate with others. That's fine, but I want us to have an open.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Right now, we're trying to unify a little bit because it's not been, as I said to you before, this.
How did your meeting with the chief rabbi go?
So unfortunately, he has been out of the country the whole time, so we're still waiting for him to come back. So he had a matter he had to take care of, and he's been out of the country since I've been here. So we're still hoping he's gonna get back here before I have to leave. So we're waiting on that. But as I said to you before, and this is really what it was that for many, many years, and the Talmud talks about it, people stopped keeping the 7 Noahide laws. People stopped doing it. People started doing their own thing. And with the persecution of the Jews, they became much more insular, and that's the way the world has gone. It's a sign of times of Mashiach that there's a certain point where it says, "Kemala arzei Hashem," that the world will be filled with knowledge of Hashem, that the waters fill the sea, and that's happening. And because that's happening, so and that's how I started. Because when I first went to America, I went to a very famous Rav in Israel, Rav Yoel Schwartz, and he said to me, "You really need to speak to the non-Jews to get them to keep the 7 Noahide laws. That's going to create a cascade effect where there's some Jews who are also ignorant of their Judaism, and they're going to see, whoa, everyone's realizing it. They'll wake up too, and we'll start this process." So I think that, and again, we have to do our effort. God runs the world, and we make our effort. I don't know Mashiach's coming today or tomorrow or in 6 months. I don't know. I know that that's God's decision, but He wants us to make our effort. And our effort is to go and to try to unite all these factors now, and that's why we're doing this. So the answer to your question, Rod, is that's exactly what we're doing. I'm meeting with different rabbis. Hopefully, when the chief rabbi comes back, we've spoken to his staff and his secretary. Once he gets back, we will have a meeting with him, God willing. We're looking to do that. We have rabbis in the States. I've spoken to the Rabbinical Council of America. I'm a judge on the court, conversion courts there. I've spoken to them. We're starting to try to get people to be part of what's happening, and God willing, He'll look it down on our actions and say that they're appropriate, and we'll see good things.
As long as we do our part, like you said, and it's exciting, and it's always exciting to have opportunity to meet in person. So if we do our little parts, it can start a cascade. It definitely keeps wind in the sails, and that's what we want to do for sure, to make the world a better place. And I like the way Rod used the analogy of the moon shining, reflecting the light, and that is awesome. And I hope that people do that. So, Rabbi, I got to sign out for today because I got to get some sleep. And
me too. Israel's late already. Okay.
Well, please stay in touch, Rabbi, and let me know when we're going to do this next session. 2 weeks from today, I'll be tied up. And Rod, if you do want to come up here, I have a private a vineyard house set aside for the rabbis. I don't have any spare bedrooms in it left, but I could definitely make room on a couch for you to sleep if you want.
I'm going to tell you right now, if I can sleep in somebody's closet in Queens to do what Hashem has asked me to do, I have no problem sleeping on a couch. Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm talking a private house in the vineyard overlooking the lake with a pool and barbecue.
I'm not a.
I just need to know because I've got a Rebbitzin in Kelowna making kosher food. I just need to make sure I have enough food in the house for the guests there. So.
I'll let you know as soon as I possibly can, and it probably will be within this week. Also, I want to send one more thing. Yeshiva Perkei Shoshanim has now achieved NGO status at the UN for the purpose of helping to influence the Noahide principles through the UN with Rabbi Cohen. And so some great things are happening, talking about religious freedoms in other parts of the nations and why it's important to give people the opportunity to worship as they please. And we in the United States don't realize how scarce it is to live in some countries where you don't have that liberty. So God willing, good things are going to come ahead of us. So Rabbi Karmi, thank you so much.
All the best, everybody. We'll see you.
The best to you. Shavuot Tov.
All right. Blessings, Rabbi. All right, folks. So that's our Working Together series for today out of the Netiv Zoom room in Houston with Rabbi Karmi Ingber in Israel at the moment. who's also making plans to do some get-togethers in the United States. We so appreciate all you're doing, Rabbi Ingber. It's so needed, and may many other wonderful Jewish people learn from your example. And yeah, I look forward to this conference we've got in 2 weeks from today. It's going to be exciting. And if you're within distance to make it, let me know. I've got registration forms out there on the Noahide World Center Facebook page. If anybody wants a link, you can always email me, dan.ca@britolam.community is my email, and I'll give you the links if you want to register. The reason I'm asking for registrations is because I have prepared workbooks for everybody that wants to attend, and also I stepped up and paid for a Mediterranean-style catering buffet for 2 days, and I have to make sure I've got enough for the number of people that are attending. And so
also, Dan, let me just add this. Can somebody donate if they're not coming to help cover the cost?
I'm still developing an app that'll be there for those that are there if they want to donate. But I mean, I haven't put anything online. But I still haven't decided. Like, I'm going to move my gear. I got the final layout all the other day, and they're going to have they let me pick the size of the stage, and did I want this skirted or that skirted? So we've configured the room with some heavy drapes to make it look cozy and comfortable. I got a big screen. And the stage, I'm going to have 3 cameras set up, and I'm definitely recording, but Rabbi Skobach hasn't given me clearance to broadcast. So
that's fine. That's fine. But the stuff that you're going to put out later, you might reproduce and put on YouTube. Let us know so we can share it.
Oh, for sure. So I'm exploring that as an option to I have the tools to broadcast it live. I'm going to be so under the gun the day because I've got to make sure I get the rabbis there on time, but I have to also get there early enough to set up banners and So Kelly and Angelica, I'm planning not this week, but probably the following week. We'll have to have. I'll take you guys out to a restaurant, and I'll get you guys these sweaters, and we'll do a little breakdown on
awesome.
Duties and how we're going to hopefully play this out. So I'll be messaging you ladies, and appreciate your willingness to help out. And also George as well. It's going to be exciting. So yeah, I'm going to wind this up for today. I'll let you know on social media when Rabbi Ingber's available next for our Working Together series. So till then, have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody. Bye for now.
Shalom. Hey guys, anybody else want to stay extra to just chat? Now's the time.